I gotta be here, huh? No moving around. Okay. It's shining off the head, so. Good evening, my name is Jamie Dukowitz. I am the 11th grade counselor here at Armstrong. And tonight we're talking about PSEO, post-secondary enrollment options. It's nice to see so many families and students here tonight to find out about this great program that we have here in the state of Minnesota that not every state has this, so we're very fortunate to have it. So this presentation will also be recorded and will be online. So if you have other people who did not see the presentation or were not able to make it, it will also be available. So I'm going to introduce you to a couple of the college reps that we have here today, talk a little bit about PSEO and some of the required forms and things students need to do to participate in PSEO, and then we'll have the three colleges present, and then we'll have time at the end for the questions. And I think that's one of the most beneficial things that we have here tonight is if you have some general questions, but if you also have some specific ones to be able to talk to one of the college representatives and hear the specifics regarding PSEO at their colleges, that's a huge benefit, and we're really thankful that the colleges were able to send people out for us today. So I'm Mr. Dukowitz, and these three will be coming up here eventually, but Sam Kelly from North Hennepin, Andrew Koppelman from the University of Minnesota Twin Cities, and Danielle Frering? Yeah. I got it, okay. All right, good. So they will all be presenting here in just a minute. So, what is PSEO? PSEO started back in the 80s for students who couldn't access higher level classes. So the local high school only went up to French 3, and a student wanted to take the next level of French, but they just didn't have enough students to take that, so that's kind of where it started. But it is something that has continued since the 80s, and what ends up happening is a lot of people started accessing it more and more because it's free college is basically what it is. So you get credit for high school and for college at the same time, so it's been a real successful program. And here at Armstrong, we have definitely seen more and more students accessing it. The eligibility requirements. So it's different for each grade level, and it's also different for each college. So it depends on the college and the student and all of those different things. So going into a student's sophomore year, so this year's 9th graders, you could take what's called a Career and Technical Education, or CTE course. In order to be eligible for that, you had to pass at the 8th grade MCA reading test, you had to be at a proficient level of meets or exceeds. A student can sign up for one class for their 10th grade year through that program. We tend to not get a lot of students that do that for a couple of reasons. One is 10th grade year is kind of packed with some core requirements, so sometimes it's difficult to fit that in a student's schedule, as well as 10th graders don't always have transportation, so that sometimes can be an issue. And then it's only one class. You're kind of limited, and the selection of courses is limited. But we have had some students who have accessed that program for CTE. Then in the junior year, typically it's the top 1/3 of your class. This is in general for the whole state of Minnesota. The top 1/3 of your class, which here tends to be about a 3.6. And for your senior year, top half of the class, which tends to be around a 3.0. Now, we have some local agreements between Robbinsdale School District and some of the local community colleges, which the local agreement is 2.75, so junior or senior, going into your junior or senior year, a 2.75 GPA. So that has opened it up to a lot of more students who are able to meet the requirements to get in. But each institution will have their own requirements. So some may be more challenging to get in, and some may be less challenging. I know sometimes there might be a circumstance where the GPA isn't where it needs to be, and we can help make sure that if a student is appropriate for PSEO, that we can get that student in. So that's who's eligible. The best part ever, it's free, which could mean up to thousands of dollars in free tuition because it's free at the college. Also counts for high school. You do not need to pay for any of your textbooks. Those are free. You have to turn them in at the end of your time for PSEO. But the only time you'd ever have to pay anything for PSEO would be like maybe art supplies, potentially, if you're taking an art class. And for some students, it's the transportation back and forth if you have to actually attend on campus. So at Armstrong, we've had PSEO since I've been here for 20-some years. This is just a snapshot of the last 5 years, and if you can see, this second semester we tend to get more students, and this second semester of this school year, we've had a record number of students do PSEO. So in general, so we're talking in general, most students do part-time. So that means they'll take a few courses here and a few courses at the college. Most students do English or social studies PSEO and then math or science at Armstrong. And the reason for that tends to be, I think there's a little bit more accessibility to our math and science teachers here than maybe you would get at the college level. And so I think most students do that. English and social studies, it just seems that there's more options for students to take. You don't have to take English, math, social science. You can take electives. So we've had students who've taken things like yoga or the history of rock and roll. So there's all sorts of options that you can take, but most students will end up doing their core requirements in English and social. Many students go to North Hennepin. It tends to be the ones that is close by, and so we've had a lot of students that have done it, and so then word of mouth, oh, so-and-so did North Hennepin, so I'm going to do North Hennepin. Now, it used to be that way, especially because of transportation. Now, since we've been through the pandemic, there have been a lot more online classes available. So we have a lot of students who will take part in PSEO online, so they won't even need to attend, set foot on the campus at all to do their online class. So we've seen, that's I think why we've seen that uptick in students this past year. We've had students go all over the state to do PSEO. It just depends on what the student is interested in. And by no means going to one of these schools for PSEO means that your student has to go to that college after they graduate. It's just a way for them to earn high school and college credits. We are most familiar with these 3 colleges that we have here tonight, but if your student's interested in looking at other colleges, that is certainly an option. You'd have to look up their requirements and their application. May be different than what we're used to, but that certainly is an option. Credits. So the college credits will count for half as many at Armstrong. So what that means is, if a student takes a 4-credit college course, that will count for 2 credits here at Armstrong. So say you're taking your English class, you're taking College Writing 101 at the college, it will count for 2 credits here. 4 credits at college, 2 credits here, which is the equivalent of a full year of English, which is what most students need in their 11th and their 12th grade year. So they count for half as much. So 4-credit courses are always easy. It's those 3-credit courses where it counts for 1.5, where you still might need a half a credit in English or in social studies for the next semester. So you take another English or social studies credit. So just something to be aware of when students get to the point where they're picking their classes, that they count for half. So again, that's the example. Students need to make sure they're meeting their Armstrong graduation requirements for credits. So as a junior, typically students need 2 English, 2 social, 2 math, 2 science. Typically their senior year they need 2 English, 2 social studies because they have their math and their science taken care of. Sometimes students will need a fine arts credit here or there, or if they missed a credit earlier in their high school career. But that's one of the important things, is making sure that your students selecting the courses that count for graduation for them. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't also take other credits that end up being elective credits. It just means you got to make sure that you're meeting the Armstrong graduation requirements, whether it's taking the courses PSEO or in the building. You got to make sure that you're getting those right credits. And these are things that students can, if they're concerned about that, have questions, they can talk to either myself or the other counselors to see and make sure that they're hitting the right credits. And another piece about credits is almost all of the credits that a student takes PSEO will transfer to colleges, but students will need to check with the individual colleges that they actually end up attending to make sure that they count. Now, this doesn't mean that if you take a course, a PSEO course, that it's not going to count somewhere. It just might not count usually in the area sometimes. So sometimes we get students who will take an English course at the community college, and then they'll go to a private college and they'll say, you know what, even though you took that as an English, we'd really like to see you take our freshman symposium class instead, but that class will count as an elective for you in your liberal arts field or something. So it just depends, and there is a good website that students can use and families can use called Transferology that will help you, especially with the local schools. Taking this credit here will count towards this class at this school. But in general, almost all of the credits that students take PSEO will count towards their college credit. But again, you got to check with the college they eventually end up attending. Grades. All grades earned at the colleges will be placed on the transcript. So if a student gets an A, it's an A on the transcript. If a student fails a course, the NC will go on the transcript. So I've had students who, oops, I forgot to withdraw from that course that I didn't want, that I stopped going to. Well, it's an NC on your transcript. That goes on your report card or your transcript here at Armstrong. It also stays on your transcript at college. So if you end up going to college and you want your other credits that you took PSEO, that NC will still be on there and will still affect your grade point average when you go to college. So grades count just as much at PSEO as they do here in the building. Again, dropping, make sure you look at deadlines. Colleges each have their own deadlines as far as withdrawing or dropping the class completely. And again, we'll be on our transcript. College is college. It's not high school, so you won't have mid-quarter grades, or you don't have Infinite Campus or the parent portal, those kind of things. It's more just like what you get is what you get, and there's not really as many checks per se as you do have in high school. So there isn't a lot of homework that students turn in. There's going to be more tests and exams that is going to be what your grade is based on, projects, those kind of things. So college is different than high school. So you just have to make sure that students are doing what they need to do to get good grades at their PSEO classes. Eventually, when the student finishes and they go off to college, even though it will be on our transcript that says that they took PSEO, Introduction to Psychology, they still will need an official transcript from that college to send to the college that they go to for after they graduate high school. So I took the Introduction to Psychology at Hennepin Technical College, and now I'm attending St. Ben's, and I need to then send an official transcript from Hennepin Tech to St. Ben's for that to count for college. Forms. So each college has their own application. Students will go online to that application, easy as Googling University of Minnesota PSEO. The PSEO site pops up, and you have to create a username and a password, and you do the application. So each college has their own application for PSEO, and it's online. And then we have some forms that students need to fill out. One is a form that, so parents and students both know what they're getting into for PSEO, that the grades count, all those things that I covered, just kind of signing off. We also have students put down what email they use, because we want to, especially during certain points during the year, we might need to email the students, so we want a student email. So there's that sheet. And then the Minnesota State form, we call it the three-part form. Some people call it different things, but it's a three-part form where the student fills out a piece, the counselor fills out a piece, and the college eventually fills out a piece. So all forms, after the student gets the packet of information, fills out the forms, the parent signs off, the student signs off, you turn it into Darcy, who is our guidance registrar, and then she runs the transcript and test scores if we need them. Counselor fills out our part, and then we send them off to the college. So that way, the college has the students' transcripts, make sure that they've met the requirements, and then the college will get back to the students. So we have two different packs of forms. The blue one is for every college in Minnesota. The yellow one is the U of M one, just because there's one piece that's a little different. They're both available in the guidance office, and my guess is that by tomorrow morning we'll be out and we'll have to fill that back up, because after this meeting usually a lot of students come in and get those. But those are the two packets of forms. So this is the agreement. You got to make sure that you tell us whether you're thinking of doing part-time or full-time, what your email address is. We need a student signature and a parent signature. Pretty simple, standard stuff. This is a three-part form. Student fills out the top. Make sure the student signs and the parent signs. Then you bring that in. So you finish that and bring that into Darcy. She gives it to me. I fill out the bottom, which is actually the second part. And then on the next page, there's a spot that the college fills out. So three-part form, 3 different sections. So timeline. So between now and April, we're live. Your student could apply today if they wanted to for PSEO. The U of M is the earliest deadline, which is April 14th. So as someone pointed out, that's not that far away, because we're in March. Each school may have a different deadline, so the colleges will talk about that, but it just depends on the school. I think the latest deadline is probably like July 1st, but I don't work in July. I'm off as soon as school's done, I'm done. So students have to have those forms in before we leave for the summer, because if you try to do it in August, it's going to be too late. So February, April, stuff's out there. March, May, you apply and you wait to hear back. March through July, the colleges might, this is probably not as relevant as it used to be, but sometimes students have to take placement tests, but we haven't had to have as many students do that recently. Students will register for their classes now, between May and August, they'll register. But again, counselors aren't here in the summer. We will, in late August, come back to school, and then students can meet with the counselors to adjust their schedule. And check to make sure, okay, are you taking your social studies and your English, and what are we doing here? And for a lot of students, if they're doing part-time, we can then squeeze their schedule. So I want to do PSEO in the morning. That's the class that I've scheduled for. And then I want to push my math and science and my concert choir to 5th, 6th, and 7th, or flip it, or do something. So we meet in August. We can't meet any earlier than that because the schedule is not done until the summer. So it isn't until the end of August that we make those changes. And there is we try to email families in August saying, hey, your student applied for PSEO. Please come in during these special dates to fix your schedule. So we make sure that we have times for those students. So with that, I was going to say we could have questions, but I can't see anyone. So we're going to wait till the end. Let's wait till the end, and then we'll have questions at the end. But for right now, I'm going to turn over to Sam. Sam is our representative from North Hennepin. Yay!
Hello, everyone. Hi. So bear with me as we go through this. I was on vacation last week. Jamie was
26th. Now, the applications, again, z.umn.edu/PSEO apply, and there will be a sheet you can pick up afterwards with all that. It's competitive process. We get about 1,600 applicants for around 700, 750 seats. And so we do recommend that you apply to other PSEO programs, partly because it is a competitive process, and partly, though, because even for admitted students, there is no guarantee that you'll get the exact courses that you want. And so the students who have applied to another PSEO program will just give themselves the most options. So for instance, if you need a US government requirement, but the class that we offer is the time doesn't work out for you, you'll be in a much better spot if you're also admitted to another school and can take maybe a couple classes at the U of M and take your government requirement through the other school. So the materials themselves, the required stuff. First is that creating your application. That'll be pretty quick. There's that 3-part form, the notice of student registration, which you saw before, and a high school transcript. And if you've taken prior PSEO, we'll need a copy of your college transcript. An unofficial copy, nothing you should have to pay for. But optional stuff, or recommended stuff, in some cases, there's a balance sheet which shows your remaining high school graduation requirements, which we recommend submitting. It'll just help your advisor in PSEO give you a better sense of what classes to recommend. If you have a standardized test score, you're welcome to submit it, but most students haven't taken it, most students don't submit it. So if you took it and you feel especially happy with how it went, go for it, but if not, don't worry about it. AP or IB scores, if you have some, there are some we can definitely honor for college, for granting you placement to higher level courses, but nothing is required. And if you have anything else in your academic record that you want to give us extra context on, you're welcome to do that with an additional statement, to write just a brief statement saying, because we're just looking at your academic records, we won't be looking at extracurriculars or leadership experiences, that sort of thing, but if there's something in your academic record you want to give us more context for, like if your grades were going great, then you had like a dip one semester and then it went back up, then and you want to tell us what happened, what you got from it, what the context was, feel free to include that sort of additional statement. A little bit about what our admissions criteria. So there's 2 main things that we're looking at. We're looking at your grades and we're looking at the rigor of your classes, how tough they were, AP, honors, that sort of thing. For grades, the GPA minimum again is 3.6 to apply. Most students will have the 3.85 to 4.0 range, but the other factor we do look at on top of grades is that rigor. And each school is different. Some schools don't offer any AP classes. Some schools offer a ton of AP classes and everyone takes them, or honors or advanced courses, IB, that sort of stuff. So we're looking to see, have you challenged yourself compared to what other students at your high school are taking? And so, yeah, basically we want to see that you've been doing as well as possible in the toughest classes possible. And that's really it. Again, this is kind of the short gist of it, and I'll have this little handout with all those details and course options and links that you can pick up from me at the end. Thank you.
One note, as Andrew's up here talking, and each high school I think does it different. One of the questions that get asked a lot is about social studies requirements, because the state requires world history in 11th grade and economics and government in 12th grade. We would love it if students can fit those into their schedule when they're doing PSEO, but we're not. It's not a hard and fast rule for us. PSEO, because it's a higher level course, we are able to be flexible with that. So if a student ends up taking an introduction to sociology, we will count that for their social studies, or they'll take economics for 4 credits, and that counts for their 2 social studies credits. We don't make them go and do American government. So just something of note that ends up, there'll be a lot of questions about that. We're very, very flexible when it comes to the PSEO credits counting for social studies. So next up, Danielle from Tech.
Hello, everybody. I'm shorter than everybody else. It's not the first time. I am Danielle from Hennepin Technical College, and most Okay, so if you don't know anything about or much about Hennepin Tech, just a brief, what we're all about is we're all about job training. We focus on jobs that are in demand, will pay well, they're hiring, it's going to be a nice long-term career with a lot of different routes that people can take. So we approach really all of our classes and all of our education from that perspective. So Hennepin Tech, we're the largest technical college in Minnesota. All of our faculty have industry experience. It's really about career-focused, hands-on training, very high job placement rates for our graduates, over 40 different programs to choose from. I think a lot of people know that we do, a lot of the traditional like building trades, things like that. We're also very well known for IT, but we have a lot of like business, and we have a lot of creative things in the communication industries, especially graphic design, audio production, video production, culinary arts. Transportation is huge too. So just kind of what we offer, in case you're not familiar. We have a lot of general education classes as well. We specialize, as a 2-year college, we specialize in 2-year associate degrees that are intentionally constructed, that is all that the industry requires to jump into that field and have a nice long-term career. But there's a lot of transfer opportunities as well. If someone were to get an associate degree from us and then transfer to a partnering university. So, just who we are. We've got 2 campuses, Brooklyn Park and Eden Prairie, so it's worth noting if students are coming to our campus. Some of our programs might be just at one campus or the other, but we have a lot of programs that are also online. Those classes might be asynchronous, or they might be synchronous, or they might be a hybrid. So just keep that in mind when you're looking for classes. Make sure that you know which campus it is on, and that you would have the transportation to get there if it is in person. And we're part of the Minnesota State Colleges and Universities system, along with North Hennepin Community College, which really helps the transferability of our credits overall. Yeah, this is all going to be, you've heard it all before. So why do you take PSEO? One thing I will note is that so courses and required textbooks are free, that you've heard. I want to note again, Jamie had mentioned the example of the art supplies. We do have a handful of programs that there's extra supplies that are needed, such as like automotive, there might be tools, culinary arts, the chef's coat, things like that. So the courses and textbooks would be at no cost to you, and like you mentioned, the textbooks, you would be able to keep those. But any additional course fees, that would be a purchase that you would be making and that you would keep. So just want to throw that up there. So why would you take PSEO at Hennepin Tech? It kind of falls into one of 3 camps generally. General education classes, we definitely have those. But we have a lot of PSEO students that they know they're going to go into one of the programs that we offer. They know they're going to go for one of those associate degrees that we offer. So they're getting a jump on those particular classes. So maybe they're not looking to transfer. They're looking to get the entire associate degree with us. So automotive, welding, IT, and business, I will say are the programs, the tech classes that we have the highest number of PSEO students in. But over all of our programs, we really have PSEO students that are in all of our programs. There are a few restrictions, age, whatnot, and I'll touch on that in a moment. But even in those cases, there's usually some prerequisites or something that you can get a jump on. But these are the ones that we see in our tech classes the most, but overall, the number 1 program, if you will, that we have PSEO students taking is English. So, yeah, again, that we have those general education classes. And I also like to point out, so the 3rd camp here is maybe you're a high schooler, maybe you're considering going into one of the careers for which we have classes that you can take. PSEO is a nice way to kind of explore what's out there to see if that's something you want to go all in on and pursue. So at that no tuition cost, it's a nice opportunity to kind of play around with some things and explore what you're interested in. The eligibility is going to be the same pretty much as North Hennepin Community College, and the initial intro from the Armstrong counselor. So sophomores can take one class with us, one CTE class if they had a meets or exceeds on their 8th grade MCAs for reading. And then juniors, it would be the top third of your class. Seniors, it would be the top half of your class. But notice the asterisks. We really do encourage students that might be below that threshold to seek out a letter of recommendation from somebody at the high school or whatnot. We're definitely open to considering students that are below that ranking. Especially, we just teach things differently, and a lot of students that maybe aren't engaged in the high school lecture-based classes, they might really thrive in a hands-on environment like ours in something that they're interested in. So along with applications, regardless of GPA, we really are willing to consider any student. Again, college classes are college classes. They are rigorous, take them seriously, and the satisfactory academic progress goes back again to, this is going to be on your transcript, but at the same time, we have a lot of resources. So if you're a PSEO student at Hennepin Technical College, you're a Hennepin Technical College student. So all the resources that we have for all of our students, they're all available for you too. And again, the difference is that nobody's watching you and nudging you to seek out tutoring or whatever it might be, but they're all there, and there's a huge team of people there to help you succeed. You just need to step up and advocate for yourself. And the application process, let's see, so it's actually pretty basic, even though it's 7 steps here, but number 1, just learning about PSEO for nights like this is great. Number 2, meet with your high school counselor, just to see if it's the right fit. Number 3, apply to the college. It's an online system, just like it was at North Hennepin. It's pretty quick, but again, just like the North Hennepin application, be sure to say that you're a high school student and that you're applying for PSEO, or else you'll get charged that $20 application fee. And then once you apply and you have, and you've indicated that you're PSEO, after that's processed, it takes a few days, but our PSEO coordinator will reach out, and I'm going to end the slide with her contact info, so she can help navigate through all the rest of the steps with you. But the next step would be to complete the forms, and turn those in, and everything else is also on our website, so there's links from all of these are folded. But yeah, so there are forms, and then transcripts. There may be AccuPlacer test. So really what that number 5 there, it's really just about assessing where you're at to make sure that you're going to be successful in the class. So if we can do that through transcripts or past scores, we can do that depending on what program it is. There may be an AccuPlacer test in addition, but quite possibly not. Number 6, complete the orientation that's online. It'll tell you all of the resources. We'll go through all the steps. And if you get this far, please do take that orientation seriously and really make note of everything that's out there. And then the last thing would be to register. And I don't have deadlines on here because we don't have deadlines, but I would say it's most helpful to get through all of these before this school year ends, while your high school staff is still here to assist you. I think that's it, yeah. So yeah, so all the information is on our website. I also have handouts as well. So Becky here is our PSEO coordinator. So she's the one that can help guide through the process of all of the forms and whatnot. If you have questions about specific classes, Becky likely won't know the answers, but still you can use her as a point of contact to, she'll refer you to the person that knows that program and can tell you more about that specific class. So, thanks.
One thing I will note from Danielle's presentation, advocating for yourself is definitely a skill students need to have in college that they maybe don't access as much here. You're kind of forced to be an advocate for yourself in college, which is good. So some frequently asked questions, I'm just going to kind of rattle through these quick. What's better, PSEO or AP? It just depends on what you're looking for. The AP, you kind of know who teaches the AP here. You might, if you've taken an AP before, you might know the rigor. The big difference, I think, is PSEO, if you pass the class, you earn the credit. AP, you have to take that test. You have to take the test in order to get the credit. So that's one of the main differences. They're both good. It just depends on the student. What classes should I take at college? And I went to all of our classes that students took for PSEO for this first semester. Here are classes that we accepted for social studies. PSEO World History 1300 to present, which that's a long time. PSEO Principles of Macroeconomics, PSEO Intro to Psychology, PSEO American Government and Politics. For English, we took PSEO College Writing, PSEO Creative Writing, PSEO Introduction to Shakespeare. And then we talked about some of the classes like, what else could I take? Students took this first semester PSEO American Sign Language, PSEO Biology of Women, PSEO Fitness Walking, PSEO Journalism, PSEO Oceanography, PSEO Soccer Around the World, PSEO Visual Arts, and PSEO, I'm guessing this is Hennepin Tech, PSEO Copper Pipe Procedures. So there's all sorts of courses that students can take. It's not just limited. That's where when people ask, well, what courses should I take? I don't know. There's so many offered. There's so many more offered than we have here. So there's a wide variety of classes that students can take. When my credits transfer, I think we covered that. Can I still participate in extracurricular activities? Yes, absolutely. Transportation is on the student if they do have to go, which also goes to parking. We have some students who do part-time PSEO. I think they've given a discount in the past for parking here. I don't think they give the discount for parking at the college if there's a parking permit that you need to purchase. I don't know if we're going to be running advisory like we did this year or next year, but that's where we try to get a student email where we can, if there's anything like you're a senior and you need to find out information about caps and gowns, we try to put that through email to students. So another thing that students maybe don't do here that you need to do in college, check your email. Always check your email. If you don't check your email, that's how colleges communicate. If you don't do that, you need to start getting used to that, especially at PSEO. Summer options. Danielle, is anything on college now? Do we know anything yet?
We don't know yet.
Okay. In the past, so typically, no, PSEO is not a summer option. You'd have to pay your own way if you'd like to take a college course at some of the colleges. Because of the agreement we have worked out with some colleges, we've had what's called College Now available for students to take some courses through Hennepin Tech and through MCTC. More information will come out as we get closer to summer, but in general, PSEO is not a summer option. You would have to pay to do that. Okay, so that's a lot of information. You guys have done a great job sitting here and listening. Thank you for those of you who stayed. Amazingly, we did it in an hour, which I was thinking it might take longer than that. But before we go, is there any specific questions that people think might be good for the whole group? Anyone have a question that they'd like to ask? Yes?
In North Hennepin, you said kids could participate in the college extracurricular activities. Is that the same at the other schools, or is that not the case?
Yeah, for the U of N, yes. There's going to be occasionally some student groups that won't be open to you, like
joining the Gophers football team might be tough, or there might be some student groups that are marked as like wine and drinking for military events club or something, but most of the time, aside from stuff like that, yes, they'll be open to PSEO.
And a deck?
But we don't have sports or theater, but for clubs and whatnot, yes, absolutely.
Good question, yes.
For the three-part form,
Yep.
how long is the timeline between the student turning it in and you guys doing your part and then giving it to the college?
1 to 2 days at the most.
Okay.
Up top.
For students who do PSEO, do you have a sense of like what percentage do just online PSEO classes as opposed to going to in-person classes?
I don't have a good ballpark of that because, like I said, I do think it has absolutely taken off this year. But given by the amount of students that we have in the building, I would say 65, 70% of our students that are doing our PSEO are doing online. Like I said, they don't have to go to campus, you don't have to travel. I think it might even be higher than that. But